Hey, Eleanor. Uh, can you hear me?
Yep. Can you
Perfect.
hear me?
I can. Do you
Okay.
know? Do you know if Ed Cherry works for the city or not?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you know if Ed Cherry works for the city or not?
You don't know.
Hmm. I hope you had a good Mardi Gras, by the way.
I did. How about you?
Um, it started off slow, but it ended well. Ended well.
Mine as well. It was sort of like Mardi Gras light.
Yeah. Actually, Sunday was probably the most Mardi Gras horrific day for me.
Um, I think my body is grateful that I had a year off.
Touche, touche. Um, I'm just waiting for Haley to come in before I let everyone else in.
Okay.
I mean, the non-committee members, of course. Hey, hey, Haley.
Good morning. It looks like it works the way we wanted it, right? Because it says Larry.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Just be sure to change your name. Okay. I can let everyone in.
yeah, and we don't need a waiting room. Good morning. I would like to call the Wednesday, February 17th DAC meeting to order. We will begin with roll call. Haley Dellery, present. Joseph Colon. Danny McElmurray.
Here.
Eleanor Burke.
Here.
Rodney, well, do we have Miguel with us today or Rodney from Capital Projects? So neither is present right now. Lindsay Glatz.
Here.
Lewis Haywood.
Here.
Okay. The public comment form link is available at nola.gov/CPC, and it will be available until the end of the 5-minute recess, after which public comments will be read into the record. At this time, would the committee make a motion to adopt the meeting minutes from the February 3rd meeting?
Make a motion to adopt the minutes.
We have a
Second the
motion
motion.
by Parkways. Do we have a second?
I'll
Yes,
second.
second.
Eleanor.
Okay, and we have a second by HDLC. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We will begin with the item number 2, which is reconsideration of zoning docket, design review docket 6720. This is a property located at 1515 Poydras Street. We have several members from the project design team as well as from ownership. And Travis is the CPC staff member signed up to speak on behalf of this project. At this time, the project team can take over and present any changes from the last time that the DAC saw this.
Thank you, Ms. Dellery, and thank you to CPC staff as well. My name is Richard Cortezis. I'm with Jones Walker, and I'm one of the outside advisors consultant to the ownership and the developing team. Again, I hope everyone had a wonderful and safe Mardi Gras, whatever we were calling it this year. But thank you all for taking the time this morning. Members of the DAC, as Ms. Dellery pointed out, this is a follow-up to an application that had been submitted in November of 2019 for the conversion and renovation of a commercial office building to a commercial mixed-use residential office building as well. Under the CZO, it triggered, obviously, the DAC review and comment period. And we initially met with the DAC back in May of 2020. So this is really just a follow-up to the questions and some revisions that were made per the comments that had been made at that DAC meeting, which were very valuable and very appreciated. Specifically, some of the questions that were pointed out were with regards to the design decisions and the material choice for the 2-story addition of the building and integration with the main building. Additionally, there were some questions regarding the parking and turn radius at the front courtyard, and then some specific questions regarding the landscaping and protections of the trees along the front of the property and the side. And I think we've adequately addressed those specific concerns and questions that were identified at the May meeting. Joining me on this call are Charles Travis, who's really the lead from the architect team with Housing Studios, but as part of his team as well is Hannah Bird, Alberto Cervalos, Gray Stout. We also have on the line our landscape architect team, Steve Dudash and Ryan Thompson. And then if there are any specific questions with regards to the ownership project, whatever, we also have members of the ownership team, JLL representing FCA partners, Jacques Legrand, Sue Tucker, and Nigel Orr. With that, members, I'm not sure if it's appropriate to turn it over to you all or if you would like for us to begin our presentation following up on the questions and comments that were posed at the May 20th last year meeting. Whatever you all.
We'll go straight into the presentation by your team,
Okay.
and then the committee will have a chance to ask any questions, and then we'll have a break. And then when we come back from the break, we'll go to voting.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Dellery. So with that, Chuck, I think I'm going to turn it over to you now. And I think you should have, I emailed with Travis. I think the administrator allows us to control the PowerPoint. I unfortunately don't know whether we can or not. But I'm assuming, Chuck, I don't know if you have it in front of you, if you're able to begin your
So Joseph, on our staff, he's going to be controlling the PowerPoint, but if you just have specific page numbers that you want him to jump to, he can do that.
Okay.
That'll work great. Richard, are you concluded?
I'm concluded, Chuck. Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is Chuck Travis. I'm a principal with the Housing Studio, and we're the architect for the project. And we have our entire design team with us today. So once we get into the discussion a little bit deeper, if you have conversations, we have our various team members that can jump in and give you additional detail, because what I'm going to try to do is, first, we're going to start with the video that we've sent to you. Hopefully you had a chance to see it. And if not, we're going to start with that. I'll give you a sort of a high-level overview of the changes that we've made since our last meeting in May. And there were 4 main areas that we're going to be talking about. If you were able to go through your presentation package, you saw on page 2, which is sheet A0.01, we tried to capture all of the comments you gave us from our last meeting and give you responses to help guide you through the set that we put together. And with those comments, we took them very seriously. And actually, we thought they were, after going through the design process for the last few months, we thought they were extremely right on point. We took no exceptions with them. In fact, you empowered us to go further and to push the project to the next level, which I think really will show today when we give you this presentation. The 4 areas that, as we go through this video to start, that I want you to be mindful of. The first one was dealing with the pedestrian motor court. As you recall, there were several comments in our conversation last time where we were talking about this is primarily used for pedestrians during game day events. What we think is extremely important to this building as we transition from an office use to a residential use is that we create a front door to the street there at Portis. And so we think this gives us that opportunity to drop off residents and to pick up residents. And we try to be mindful of both uses and both needs. So we've made that area highly programmable. The other is the streetscape. That was something we discussed last time about some of the aging landscaping material that was in need of replacement and repair. Also, your concerns about ADA access around the entire perimeter of the site was certainly important to everyone. The amenity terrace, as Richard was just mentioning, that's something we're adding on the 6th floor. It'll be above the garage areas. So we'll be talking about that, not only about the form of it, but also the materials and how we treated it to be more sensitive to some of the cues that the building could give us. Because as you know, the existing building has ribbon windows, what we'll call them in the front and the back. And then as you turn to the sides, it has punched openings. So there's a different vocabulary going on different facades of the building. We're trying to be respectful of that as well. And then last but not least, the introduction of a Sky Terrace, which we have changed locations. It's no longer 2 floors. That's happening several levels down from the top of the building, but it is at the very top of the building. So these 4 items, as we start the video, I'll try to point out to you, and then we'll go into more of the specifics. So whoever's controlling the presentation, if you could just go to our video, please.
Before I begin the video, I just want to be sure, is there audio to this video that we should be hearing?
I think I'll be the audio. Sorry, we probably should have had some music playing, but I thought it was more important to actually give you the opportunity to view the video, just to see it, set the context and the tone of the building. And I know that you're very familiar with this building. So as you see the top of the building, that's the Sky Terrace I was just mentioning. What you're seeing at the street level, those are the 2 levels that we've added on top of the garage structure, primarily because we need to get the amenity terrace up on the 6th floor. We have pushed this facade back on this new addition so that it doesn't impose upon the front. You're now coming into that motor court, pedestrian court area that we're talking about, and you see the bollards in place there that would essentially turn this into just pedestrian use. This is the main entry. As I drive in, I can drop a resident off or pick a resident up and depart. But it also really creates and sets the stage for the front entry to the building. Trying to have public art in that space as well. Turning radius is somewhere around 48 feet. It will accommodate the largest SUV. We're not intending for this to be delivery service area. That's not what we want here. That can occur at the loading dock area in the back of the building, but this is purely for convenience and to really set the stage for a front door for this building that we're trying to be extremely respectful for. Or 2. The other, if you can just pause right here for just 1 second, the other thing I wanted to point out is that on the amenity terrace, you can see that we created openings that start to replicate what exists now currently in the garage structure. We do have this, what we call a hyphen between the 2 garage elements that come out towards the street. And we felt like that gave us the opportunity of actually tying these structures that we're adding for the amenity terrace together. And it also addresses opportunities for us to have some signage in the front as well. But the idea is not to have 2 foreign objects that aren't related to each other, but actually make it more of a part of the building, but be respectful of those elements that have always been there, which are the garage elements at the street level. And as you know, currently there's retail use all along the ground floor to help animate the street and obviously create a better pedestrian experience. So with that, if we can go to, and I know this is going to be relatively difficult for you to follow with me, but I hope that this is easy. Sheet L 1.0, which is the overall site plan. Yes, it will be number 15 in the attachment that we gave you. L 1.0.
Sorry, can you say the page number again?
It will be page number 15. Okay, perfect. Thank you. This is the overall site plan that shows the entire context of the project. And the things I wanted to point out about the discussion last time, the motor court area off of Poitras. You can start to see how we've taken cues from the actual structural grid itself in organizing this space. We've proposed, or we're proposing to redo all of the materials along Poitras so it becomes a unified streetscape element, so that all of the materials in that area are the same. Going back to what we were discussing a few minutes ago, we do see this as an area that's just for pedestrians or just an opportunity so cars can come in and drop residents off or pick them up on occasions when it's not game day or some type of special event. Looking at the overall context of the site, it also has streetscape trees that are currently existing, but we think all of them are in such condition that they need to be replaced, including the larger ones along Poitras. As you know, we have a variety of trees in that area that are sort of different sizes and different degrees of health. We think it would be better to go in, actually create a larger area for the planting, improve the landscaping, give us an opportunity to do some lighting in that area, and just do an overall improved streetscape along Poitras. We also have a monument sign that's going to be replacing the one that's out in that area now. And then if you turn to Ferret, those trees are existing, but we're replacing those with all new plant material as well. And if you look at Perdido, there's no plantings along that street existing today, nor are they required by in any type of code for the city. But what we are working on in that area is working on the accessibility, because that was brought to our attention by your board last time. So we're going to be showing you a drawing how we're actually redoing the whole loading dock area, which is where the transition for ADA occurs. You can also see noted that there's a compactor in that loading dock area on Perdido. We're enclosing that with a structure because right now it's visible from the street. So we're going to be working on the aesthetics of that area as well. And then the other things that we're doing holistically that is a big concern to us is obviously lighting this so that it feels like a safe, friendly area for pedestrians and also our residents. So we have lighting plans that are included in our presentation that show all of the lighting schemes for even these surrounding what I'll call just arcades on Ferret and LaSalle Street. But we also have lighting all in the motor court area. Not that it's in your face, but it's tasteful, and it obviously creates a night situation for lighting so that folks feel safe and comfortable, and it's a residential building that's going to be extremely successful. So if you'll go to sheet L 1.2, please. And that's an enlargement of this motor court area.
Can you go ahead and give us page numbers?
Page 17, please. So you're looking at an enlarged plan of the motor court, pedestrian court area. As you can see at the street, we have the ability to have removable bollards. So certain events, we can certainly close this area down, let it be fully pedestrian. If you look at the turnaround radius closer to the front door that you drive under the bridge connector, that's about a 48-foot dimension, like I was mentioning a few minutes ago, as far as the diameter is concerned. We do have the ability of having public art as a part of that space as well. And You can also start to see some of the things I've mentioned previously is we're taking cues from the structural grid to set up patterns of these materials, and we're trying to select materials and colors that are representative and calm to accent the building and work successfully with the color palette that's existing today. Just so that you know, we are just leaving the pattern that occurs along Ferret Street and LaSalle Street. That's existing today. What we're doing in those areas is just adding additional lighting. So if we can go to the next sheet, which would be L1.6, and what number is that? 21. 21, please. Just to give you some ideas of precedents that we've looked at for planting material, how we're going to be treating some of the selections for the materials along Porter Street and any other areas where we're going to be having accent paving further into our building at the motor court. These were precedent images that we used to one, convey to our client what we were trying to accomplish, and two, is to also give you an idea of the material and the level of finish that we're thinking about. And if you'll go to the next sheet, which is 22, please, which is L1.7. While we're at precedent images, we're looking at the amenity area, which would be on level 6, looking at outdoor activities, shade structures, which are extremely important, as all of you know, because you live in New Orleans and you know certain times of the year that's extremely important. Having nice green spaces that are secure, multiple activities, grilling stations. We're also adding a pool in that area, which is why it's on level 6. So it gives us enough clearance to not take away any parking in the garage. And we'll go to the next sheet, which is C1-1B, which is a more detail-oriented sheet, which is sheet number 14. I'm sorry, I should have given that to you, Joseph. This is representative of what we're doing back in the loading dock area. I was just mentioning about ADA accessibility. Right now, if you're not familiar with this area, the curb is where you can't transition off of it if you're a handicapped person. So we're rebuilding the entire area. As you can see, we're having to tear out part of the concrete that's existing, extend some of the sidewalk areas, get the ramps in position. But we took this comment very seriously, and this is something that we'll be doing in this conversion as well. If we go to sheet L1.4, which page 19. Joseph, thank you. We're now moving on to the amenity terrace. Last time when we were discussing this, we had structures for shade that, and I should also mention that we included all of the sheets that we replaced with the new sheets in the set at the end of the presentation package that we gave to you. So if you want to go back and do a comparison, we've given you that information so that you can be able to do that. But these shade structures have been designed so that they're more complementary to the building and also work with the architecture, we think, better. And the use of the materials certainly matches what we're doing to help shield the new structure that we're employing to be able to have this amenity terrace. The uses up there, as you can see, vary from outdoor grilling stations to game areas to swimming pool, sunshade type features if you want to have a cabana. And then we also are trying to incorporate a dog area because, as you know, everybody has a dog these days. And so we have a dog area and also a bar area so you can sit in the shade over there and let your dog play in the outdoor space as well. The thing that's probably the most important to you, if you recall from our last presentation, we had stairwells for egress purposes off of these terraces. They actually were on the front facing portus. We have incorporated those in more strategic areas so that they don't interrupt what we're doing on the exterior elevations, and they work with the parking below so that we have very minimal impact on parking below. So it preserves spaces for us. But it's an element that somewhat just goes away as opposed to being a design feature like what we had previously. And if we go to sheet A5.0, which is
C, right?
yeah, C.
Page 59.
59, please, Joseph. And I know this is a lot of information, and I appreciate your patience and willingness to talk with us today. And I'll try to go through this as quickly as possible, but I also want to cover a lot of points. This is going back to that previous sort of shot from the video that we looked at the beginning, but it gives you a better idea as to what this hyphen starts to look like and how we're treating the elements on this new amenity terrace. Just to back up slightly, the reason that we're having to do this is because we're putting the terrace on the 6th floor, which is one above, actually it's 2 above the existing garage structure itself. And so we're having to clad the steel structure itself with some type of material. We're doing that with zinc panels because zinc is a natural material. Just like the concrete material that's on the building, it will weather and patina and take on its own type of character, just like our building has done over time. And so we've also integrated 2 different types of zinc panel. One's corrugated, one's a more solid panel. And as you can see, we're trying to create different textures and break down the scale of that structure, and the way we're treating it with materials very similar to what you see, the way that Gordon Bunshaft broke down those garage elements by having solid voids and then also having some recesses just to break down the large mass that was coming to the street. We've tried to replicate that and complement it, but yet be true to what the original building is today and what we're adding to it. So if we'll go to the next sheet, please, which is A5.03. 62, please. And that may be the sheet right there. And I don't know if you can, there you go. That's the one I wanted to go to. So what this shows you is a 2-dimensional representation of what I was just trying to describe. We have different textures. In the hyphen, you can see where we're using more vertical applications of the material. We have horizontal installations on the side that represent the horizontality of those openings that replicate what's going on in the garage below. We've also integrated the use of a glass rail on the top. One is to help reduce the mass itself, but 2 is to preserve views that are up there on that amenity terrace. Obviously, you want to see out and look at New Orleans as much as possible. And the thing that's probably most important about this drawing for you is you can see how we're trying to replicate and pay attention to the horizontality of the ribbon windows and the openings in the garage. So if you'll go to the next sheet, please. 63, which is 5.04. So when we turn the corner, if you recall, I was mentioning earlier, is that we have ribbon windows on 2 sides and punched openings on the 2 side streets. And so we understand there's a different vocabulary working here. So what we've tried to accomplish is, one, is be respectful of that and take cues from it. And what we're doing in this instance, we actually have these darker panels, which will be a different type of zinc material. We have inset those, and I'll show you a wall section in just a minute that shows you that detail itself. And it's perforated, so it will read totally different than what you're looking at that's framing it. You'll also see the shade structures that we're proposing on the actual amenity terrace itself, and I'll show you some more details on those in just a second as well. So if we can move to the next sheet, which is 64, please. This is more information on the zinc panels, and you can see some of the corrugated that is perforated. So you'll have some transparency to it, and then some of the more solid panels of zinc. But we think this is a really nice and complementary material to use on the building. This is the side elevation that you can see at the, I guess this is the LaSalle Street. Thank you. Yeah. And so we have a shorter structure over there than you would see on Ferret Street. And you also see where we have extended this panel out to the front because of some of the load capacities and what we're capable to do with the elevations and the structure in this area is we're having to remove some of the concrete panels on that uppermost level of the garage. But you can see, it's kind of hard to see on this actual drawing, but there's score joints or breaks in the building itself. And this is following that score joint that goes back into the high-rise tower itself. So the next sheet, Hannah, would be, that's 505 is 7.02. That should be your sections.
66.
66, please. So what you're looking at is the actual wall section cut where, particularly on the right-hand side where I was just describing, where we have the punched openings. This is where those panels will be set back and have perforated panels. So there's enough depth there so that we get nice shadow lines. And it really does start to represent some of the ways that Gordon Bunshaft actually treated the openings on the side of the garage that we were looking at from the motor court a few minutes ago. But it pays attention to the punched openings and really pays sort of homage to how the building's vocabulary is set up. And then the wall section on the left actually represents the, when you drive through in the motor court to go underneath the bridge, that is showing that that's a solid panel. I don't know if you've paid attention to that in the past or not, but that's actually a bridge that connects the two sides of the garage together. It's a solid panel, so we'll be having those solid zinc panels in that area. It'll be a different material and a more vertical type installation there. And then we're going to go to, I think I've addressed the egress stairwells. I think I've talked about the outdoor bar areas. Let's go to sheet A2.15,
44.
which is sheet 44. This is a better representation of some of the shade structures that we have on the pool amenity area. Obviously, we're going to have cabanas that won't have the tilted roofs to them. In fact, the roofs on the cabana areas, we're hoping that we're going to be able to have essentially a trellis that can either be operable, so you can have it open to the sky, or on really warm days, we can close it down so that those spaces could become sunshades themselves. But it gives you an opportunity so those can be programmed on depending upon what the weather is and time of the year. But these structures will be more permanent and have bars and areas like the dog walk area, the dog play area, and also around the pool. So if we can move on now to sheet 2.14, which is 43. 43, please. The amenity terrace at the very top of the building, which is floor number 27. I know this is a little bit hard to understand, but if you're looking to the left-hand side of the building, you can start to see that corner column, and there's a ribbon window that goes from the corner column on the left that goes up on the sheet, and you can see where the diagonal type column protrudes out. We're proposing to take that entire band of ribbon windows out. We're not altering the concrete precast panel at all. We're replacing whatever we need for additional barrier height for a handrail. It will be a glass, it'll be clear in that area. And we're doing the same thing on the bottom. You see the punched openings. We're taking the windows out in that area, and we'll have a glass rail in those spaces as well. And you can see where there's a demising line that separates interior from exterior. Obviously, we're going to have doors that are operable that will open up that interior space to the exterior. But during inclement weather, you can still go up to the amenity, the Sky Terrace, and you could enjoy that space even, if it's bad weather or on really wonderful days. Game days, we see this as being a space that'll be open and free flowing. If we go to sheet A500A, which is 57, please. We're going back to that front. And if you'll zoom back out a little bit, because what I'm trying to emphasize is the actual amenity terrace at the top. You can see where we removed that ribbon window. As you turn the corner on that, we'll be taking out three windows there that are punched openings. And the idea is that we're going to treat the ceiling so that at night it has a very soft glow to it, not something that's overly obtrusive. Last time we were proposing to actually do some type of I'll just call it a frame around the opening itself. We have moved away from that to be more respectful to the building. The other thing that you might note in this is that there's signage on the left-hand side at the very top that's a proposed location for it. We're wanting to have signage that's also, as you drive into the motor court area, pedestrian court, right in the middle of the hyphen, and then we'll have that monument signage right there at the street along Porters as well. So if we go to A 5.01, 60, sheet 60, please, Joseph. And if you can actually concentrate on, well, you can see in this, the windows on the upper floor where we're removing the punched openings. And then on the right-hand drawing, I don't know if you can see all of that elevation on your screen or not, but it should be illustrating where we have signage that I just mentioned and also showing you that we're removing that ribbon window. And A500B. 58, please. Which, and Julia, just zoom down. This is actually just a later in the day shot just to show you the intentions of lighting. We're trying to be very respectful of the building. Obviously, when you have residential uses, we don't want a lot of windows capturing light from for residents at night. So it'll be a soft glow that will certainly create a warm and inviting space that will make people feel safe living in their new home. And then the amenity terrace on the top, or the Sky Terrace, will be softly lit, like I was mentioning a few minutes ago. And with that, I know there's a lot of information, and we'll be happy. Like I said, we have our entire team here. So if you have specifics that you'd like answers to, we'll be more than happy to answer those. So thank you for enduring a very long presentation.
I have a couple of questions for your landscape architect.
Okay, that would be Ryan Thompson, who is with Thomas and Hutton.
Okay.
Hello, yes, sir.
Hey, it looks like y'all are trying to replace the trees on Poydras, and this rendering is a really good spot right here because it's showing 6 street trees, but then your plans only show 4 on Poydras. And so I think in terms of the zoning ordinance, I'm not sure where. Let me start with Poydras. So you still need to have 6 trees, and there's a process you have to go through because those trees that are currently there, the previous plans didn't show trees being replaced, and so now y'all are replacing them all instead of just the ones that are in poor condition on Poydras, which is that one on the corner of LaSalle and Poydras. So we have a process that you have to go through to apply to remove healthy trees. And the species that were selected for Poydras, I think you had the LA elm, which is considered a large tree, but the Chinese pistache is considered a small tree for us.
Yes, sir. And we just specifically put on there that we knew we would need to coordinate with y'all on
Okay.
specific.
Yeah, I mean, they're just
and to the point, we were proposing to replace all 4 and put back 6, knowing that the space probably worked to accommodate 6 if we were able to space them a bit tighter. So this rendering is correct based off of, if you go back to our landscape plan that we're proposing for proposed, there are 6 shown. The 4 original are still shown in background, just so you can see that should we end up the point where we can't get to a common point of agreeing to replace the trees, the proposed streetscape concept still would work with the original 4.
I think there's 6 now.
On Poydras, there are 4. There are 2 existing live oaks on both sides.
Are you sure? Anyway, and then this question is really for Stephen or for Travers. You are right, there are 4. It's just that one's in such terrible shape, huh?
Yes, sir. That's one of the main reasons we decided.
Okay, yeah, I knew there was a reason there was 6 on the, anyway. Okay, we're good that part in terms of quantity. We need to work on the species thing.
Sure.
And this question is really for Stephen or for Travis. And looking at the zoning ordinance, this would require street trees on all 4 streets, but y'all don't have the space for that. There's not the space due to where the property line is and where the sidewalk is. So I'm curious as to why we're not requiring street trees on Perdido and Poydras with alternative compliance for Ferret and LaSalle. So that's really a question for planning, and I'm not sure they can get answered today. I'm just letting you know that that's a question that we have, because this definitely meets that requirement in terms of the need. And so we'll have to look at something for that. So I think your planner is Travis Martin, and we'll have to work on that as well.
Yeah, I'll look into that, Daniel. I'm not sure off the top of my head exactly what the requirement is for that, but
It's Article 23.11.
yeah. Okay, I'll make a
One
note
I
of
have
that.
to reference all the time. That's why I know about it.
Okay, thank you.
So, but other than that, you know, I appreciate y'all talking about making a larger tree planter well, because they definitely need a little bit larger area to grow. It's a
Yes,
very,
we're planning that, some improvements to the soil around them and irrigation to them as well. We know we've got to coordinate with y'all to what that irrigation would be, since it's in the right of way.
yeah, and just keep in mind that the trees on Ferret, those are private trees. They're not public trees.
Okay.
So I'm happy to see those poor little skinny oaks removed. They're not happy.
And Daniel, this is Richard Cortez. Just to add to your question with regards to the process, just know that we have been having conversations, and we're having some preliminary conversations with Parks and Parkways as well.
Well, I'm the one that you need to have the preliminary conversations with, so I'm not sure who you're talking to. So.
Well, I met your new director.
Okay, yeah, with Mike.
Who replaced Ann McDonald.
Yeah.
We literally actually talked last Friday.
Okay. Yeah, I've been out on furlough since then, so
well,
you hadn't had a chance to update me.
That'll explain it. But now that I know it's you, then I will.
Yeah, just make sure to I'll send you my email and just keep me up to date on that. Okay.
Perfect.
This is Eleanor. I just wanted to say, I think that the design is a vast improvement over the previous iteration, and I really appreciate you taking our comments and concerns into account and revising the design. I think it's a great addition to his existing structure. Is very respectful, but also definitely is explicit about how it's an addition. So it checks all the boxes for me. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I would like to jump on that, reiterate the overall design. There's a lot of care and attention. I will say, I think in line with the goals of the city, any housing use should really make a good effort to incorporate affordable housing when possible. I do have 2 questions about it, and the first is really related to the curb cut, which Lewis can chime in if he wants. Is there an existing curb cut where you're designing that motor court / pedestrian courtyard?
Ryan, I'm going to let you answer that question as well. What one change from previously, we had 2 drives going in. We have reduced that to 1 drive coming in that's shared, but I'll let Ryan take it from here.
Sure. There's not an existing curb cut. We did make a conscious effort, like Chuck was mentioning, to really minimize any impact that the access from a vehicular standpoint would have on pedestrian flow. So what our approach is there is to create the curb transition in that first 6 feet, basically where that bollard line is shown, where the temporary bollards would go on a major event day or game day. Everything else would be flush through there like it is now. So there would be no curb lines, vertical curbs or anything inside the motor court, but there's not an existing curb cut. That's part of the process that we're obviously going through as well, is to get that. I think Richard could elaborate on that a bit, but we did make a very much a concerted effort to really reinforce, hopefully even more so than what the current streetscape does, the dominance of the pedestrian across the Porter Street frontage.
Right, because I'm vaguely recalling our previous committee conversation, and I think I'm typically against including vehicular circulation where there isn't currently, but I think compared to what was proposed last time, it's again very well designed. The only reason I'm really bringing it up is because according to Article 2211B, um, this is in a CBD location where new curb cuts are prohibited. So it sounds like you guys are trying to gain the necessary approvals, and so that would obviously factor into how you get that curb cut.
Yeah, and this is Richard. One of our intentions is immediately upon y'all's review, your decision, the next step in the process is that literally we're going to meet with DPW, because that's where really that process starts. And we'll have to go through the process of the application of the curb cut and then go through the conditional use for that curb cut. But we really need to really have a detailed discussion with DPW. And I know Lewis is on the call right now, but our immediate next step literally would be to follow up with Lewis and the team at DPW with regards to the curb cut. So yeah, no, that's certainly within our to-do list.
Yeah, the way this is, the way I recall this working in the past is, yeah, there's no really good formal process in place in terms of like sequencing. You know, we'll only review and approve it so far without having the, you know, without having your approval or your, you know, some kind of conditional use or variance even, depending on how it works. I think it's a variance or something. I don't know. It seems like the council has to get involved sometimes.
It's a conditional use. Yeah.
Okay. Well, obviously it's happened a couple of times already down the street. So the regulation hasn't helped too much water, but I guess it helps with the with some of the design review. Yeah, the only thing I was looking at is the bollard locations, how you have that arranged. You know, I guess you're trying to protect the rest of the sidewalk there from being parked on, which I appreciate. With the bollards, you know, it'd be a little cleaner if, you know, if you can move those bollards down to kind of the throat of the driveway, just to kind of clear the sidewalk entirely. But if you're going to keep them, I would get away from the, you're showing that kind of bollard model, that real thin model. It's got the kind of two thin not bars, but kind of like two thin walls that are going up, and then it's empty in the middle. Those are like impossible to see for some reason. When you're walking down the street, they're very, yeah, they're just very light. But I like if we can maybe match just the bollards that you have protecting the driveway for the rest of it, if you wanted to keep those, or we could just kind of move the whole thing back if we were confident that that wouldn't lead to people, you know, parking on the street during game day or something, or parking on the sidewalk. That might be a good way to go. But if we're going to keep them in there, let's change them to something matching the removable bollards, or at least something that's more visible. For some reason, that particular product causes issues. They use it on Convention Center Boulevard, and we got some complaints about that. For the rest of it, you know, it looks like you're showing some parking spaces inside the area, alongside the I guess it's not really any of my business, but I did notice that you kind of kept some little parking pockets next to the driveway. So that's something I guess that's okay. And then it seemed like I looked previously at a plan. I can't remember who from, maybe more from Makovsky if they're involved. And the trees were kind of like aligned with the building. And it looks like now they're kind of back aligned with the sidewalk with the curb. So I think we'd like to keep them with the curb. And then just really make sure that the trees aren't blocking any kind of natural path of travel down the sidewalk. Is what we'd be looking for. But overall, I think it's we think it's a great improvement over the previous proposal. So we appreciate that.
Thank you. Noted on the bollards. The rendering we're looking at right now, actually, the landscape site plan, we are proposing to push those bollards more in line with the flow of the vehicular traffic. So the site plan would kind of govern that. But I understand your concern about the bollard not being super visible from a pedestrian standpoint. So happy to coordinate on that. And on the street trees, yeah, we did initially think about could it align with the building, but then we actually realized where the right-of-way line falls on it once we got the survey and realized we needed to push those out into the public realm. So that's why they're out there, and they're pretty well in line with the curb right now. And these follow that same alignment, trying to keep the pedestrian flow as wide as possible as we can. So
and just so you understand my comment about the bollards, you know, if management wasn't going to allow, say like with the hotel, you know, we had this issue where people park on the sidewalk because people are getting like their cars valeted all day. So like Hyatt House, for instance, so it creates this issue with parking on the sidewalk. If that wasn't going to be an issue, then you could push those removable bollards back to that first set of planters, okay? And then you're closing off the whole motor court from there, rather than closing it off at the top of that driveway apron, and then you know, you have these side bollards. Really, the side bollards, I guess the side bollards are kind of permanently there to prevent sidewalk parking, basically. Okay, so they really don't have anything to do. But basically what I'm saying is you could push those removable bollards, in any case, you could push the removable bollards back to the first set of planters, and it would kind of accomplish the same thing. It would still close off the motor court. If you get my point.
I do. You know what's funny?
I guess it doesn't really matter.
We actually had them back in that location and thought we would push them forward just to make sure we couldn't accommodate a full head-end car, right? So it was obvious that to block it off from a car coming in.
Okay, that works. And so you're saying that those are, so none of those are going to be there normally. So where are those stored? Are those going to put anywhere convenient, or are they going back in the storage or something?
Well, the ones directly across the drive aisle would be just temporary, that they would be put in on, you know, major event days. The ones that line the drive aisle would be permanent to keep people from parking on the sidewalk or utilizing the sidewalk. So I'm happy to, obviously we can work through the details on those for sure. I understand your concern about the pedestrian aspect of it.
Yeah, it just seems like you could maybe even design in somewhere in the motor court, like permanent positions for those bollards, and then you could just remove them and bring them to the front rather than having to put them into storage. You know what I mean?
Oh, I do.
Yeah,
see what you're
that's a
saying.
good idea.
That's a great idea.
Have an extra hole.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so we don't have to look for them on game day.
That's a great idea. We actually have a few we were thinking about in the other area anyway that we might need to make that way, so we can utilize those. That's a great idea.
And then are you does the design include any is there any kind of like outdoor dining aspect to this with you know, with the lower uses? Obviously you have the you know, you have the coffee shop at the bottom, you have the PJs today. Is there kind of any of that that's going to be expanding into the center or into the sidewalk?
Ryan, I'll let you address that.
Sure.
Right now, you know, we have the retail actually sits back, so there actually is covering out there if they wanted to sit outside even in inclement weather. But I think the intention is for those spaces, like the coffee shop that's there currently, they could certainly expand out and have outdoor seating. There's a vacant space on the left-hand side of this rendering currently. We're hoping that this will reinvigorate the area so that someone will come in, occupy that space, and the restaurant would be fabulous. And if they have outdoor dining, even more so to help animate the street and create activity. But I think Ryan has designed it so that can occur as long as it meets all the city ordinances.
Right. You know, the specific location of where we're showing those planters, we made sure there was adequate width to still have a clean pedestrian passageway along the through that area without having to block if there was future dining. But that area is around 14 to 15 feet wide. So there's plenty of area between the drive or the motor court entry there and the face of the parking structures there to accommodate that in the future. But as Chuck said, there is existing covered outdoor space there as well.
You like the position of that? The only thing that kind of jumps out at me, or the first thing that jumped out at me, was just the sign. But I guess you gotta put that sign somewhere. But it does kind of seem to like the experience would be better without that big sign.
Yeah, we were trying to identify where signage can go, not necessarily the design of the signage. We think some signage will go on that hyphen, and we think some will go on top of the building, and we think some will go at that monument that we have on the street. So I'm sure there's a process for having that submitted and approved as well, but just wanted to
oh yeah, no, it's more just in terms of the site planning and blocking like that kind of pedestrian view in and out of there. It seems like it's a little off of that axis, but you just don't want something too big blocking the approaches and everything, so you're kind of coming out.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
But yeah, all right. Well, nice job.
Hey, y'all, related to this conversation, I feel like I can't recall if to the degree bike parking and circulation was discussed last meeting, but has that been contemplated in this current design iteration? Both the storage and, thinking about bike visitors, pedicabs, things like that.
But yes, we have accommodated bike parking actually throughout the building, because as you know, a lot of folks have bikes that are expensive and will want to have them secured. So we'll have a combination of some at the street and then some within the building as well. And Hannah, how many spaces do we have total?
Yeah, we're required to have 86.
86 spaces is what we
60,
provided for.
69 of those will be permanent.
69 are permanent, 86 and 69.
Great.
So we have, and that's a key component of this building. We're hoping that people walk and cycle more than driving a car. I mean, this is one of the reasons why you would live here.
Yeah, and the last question I have in relation to your amenity space, what's the contemplated level of access? Is it exclusively for residents, or would it have a public kind of programming as well?
It's residential use and their guests. So it's for the residents of the building. Now, the ground level retail, coffee shops and food arcade that's currently existing, and future retail users that go in, that's all public domain. Lobby's all public domain as well.
Are there any other comments from the committee members? Okay, if not, thank you for the presentation and the discussion. We will now move on to item number 3. This is design review docket 1021.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Well, we actually are going to move to the vote after the end of the 5-minute recess. So if you wanted to hang around until then. Okay, so item number 3 is design review docket 1021 for a property at 6600 Belgrade Street. This is a public park cutoff playground, and that's the reason why it requires DAC review. We have Chris Afish signed up to speak on behalf of the application, and also Jacob Rowland is here. So at this time, we can move on to the presentation. Chris, do we still have you? Okay, it seems that neither Chris Afish or Jacob Rowland are online.
Hey, this is Jacob. I'm here.
Okay, all righty, Jacob.
I know Chris was on earlier. He may be having some technical issues.
Well, really, it's just a public playground, so we're going to be looking at that. Do you want to go over the scope of the project and then the committee can have a chance to ask questions?
Yeah, so the scope is we're using state capital outlay funds to install a splash pad out adjacent to the Cutoff Recreation Center. It'll be the first splash pad in Nord's portfolio. We also have secured some bond funding to add a perimeter 6-foot concrete walking path around the property. So it'll go around all the ball fields and tie in, to make a connective loop. We also will be repairing some fence. There's a chain link fence that's damaged all along the perimeter. So, including some backstop fence and things like that. So it's a pretty light project as far as scope, mainly centered on the splash pad.
Okay, thank you. And so I believe that the fence had been recently repaired within the past couple of years. Is there anything that's going to be done this time to keep it from topping over?
It was partially repaired due to an Isaac PW. So it'll be kind of replacing in kind. But yeah, the fence was recently repaired from Isaac.
Sorry, Jacob, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Hey, Chris.
Hey, sorry about that. I had exit and rejoin, so I'm not sure what I missed.
Just kind of gave a rundown of the scope with the splash pad. Haley had asked, some of the fencing was recently repaired. So I think she was just looking for maybe a detail on, the ideas that we're replacing like with like, but, her question was anything to be done to keep it from falling or falling into disrepair again. I think storm damage is, a different factor completely, but.
Yeah, I mean, I know that we're wanting to put in 8-foot high security fence around the splash pad, and we're going to go with basically a black chain link. I don't think we have the money for like a picket or metal fence. Additional funds are going to be used basically to repair any other fences around, but that's going to be contingent on what we get our bid prices at. It's going to be an add-on, but the splash pad will have a security fence.
Okay, thank you.
I have a couple questions for y'all. This is Danny. On the street frontage along General Meyer and then also on Belgrade, there's some fencing sections. Are y'all removing those completely?
We're not touching anything along the street.
Marianne, can you hear?
Okay, so
along Belgrade, the south face of the building, the entry, no.
Yeah, there's some really poor fencing along there. So, and then there, the splash pad pipes. On that last sheet, it shows the diagram shows them kind of going underneath the locations for for those new pin oaks. I think they're white oaks. And so is this just a diagrammatic relationship between, or is there a way to run those pipes between the building and the sidewalk to keep them from being in the tree root zone?
There's a lot of other utilities under there. We're probably going to keep it out in the field just in case something does happen. They break and they need repaired. That way we won't have to tear out the concrete.
Are they going to be in conduit or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we will make sure that there's adequate space away from anything we plant in that area. And I'm going to adjust it on the plans. It's something I'm aware of that needs to be addressed.
Okay. Yeah, it just needs to be addressed because white oaks have really big root systems since they have such large canopies.
Yeah, I think we will change it to probably a nuttall, which to match 2 existing ones on site, but I have to go back to the site and verify.
Okay. And then, so y'all aren't addressing anything other than what's on the field or around the building. Is that what the deal is?
Yeah, it's basically that one splash park that's kind of a little bit of an L shape, and then that perimeter trail. Again, if we have funds available, an adult will be replacing some fencing. We're gonna do a site visit this week and kind of take inventory of some of the fences and which ones need to be prioritized.
Yeah, because so I'm going to draw on the thing on the map. So this area along in here, this fence is terrible. And then right here on this corner, I don't know if those pipes are still there or not, but I know people like to sit there and they play board games and stuff
Yeah.
right on that corner. So it seems like this is a golden opportunity to address that with maybe some more permanent features other than concrete pipes as seating. And and then really take that fencing. Is there fencing around the field? Is that what the fencing that y'all are talking about mostly?
Yeah, there's fencing all along the north side and the east side. I know the east side is pretty much not fencing because it's so fallen down.
Is this going to be where people can access this walking trail at any time, or is it going to be closed off at night?
No, the fencing really isn't continuous. They'll be able to access it during the night.
Okay. So it really, I mean, if y'all have the money, if y'all could get rid of all this fencing along here, that would be great.
To get rid of it or replace it?
To get rid of it. If you're not gonna be able to secure the site, what's the point of having fencing if you're not doing anything other than just maybe if there's a division over on this left-hand side between that and another piece of property, but you're talking about along a street where you're not, if you're not trying to keep people out, then what's the point of having the fencing there?
Keep the kids in.
No, they're not staying in if it's not all the way around, right?
Well,
I can
yeah,
see where
I
you
know
could
that-
have fence along Patterson to keep kids from running into Patterson, or maybe in that little section along here where you keep kids from running into the street.
Right, yeah.
But along the front and along Belgrade and along General Meyer, there's no point in having that fencing there anymore, and it just looks terrible.
I was just thinking with the playground, just in front of the playground between General Meyer there.
You talking about right here?
Yeah.
In that little area right there?
Yeah, that front left side.
Yeah, I could see that if it looked good, but y'all aren't even addressing that, right?
It's contingent on funding. We'll identify
Okay.
all areas that are damaged, and then it'll be an add alternate to the project.
Okay.
So what I'd like to see, just in terms of, how people use sidewalks, I'd like to see that northwest corner be kind of squared off a little bit. So actually kind of, don't end up in that little angle up there, kind of do like a double radius, and so you can get like a 90-degree to the, in that corner. So you basically kind of cut off that diagonal a little early and square it off, if that makes sense. I can draw it.
Yeah, please.
Maybe. Request. Remote control. I don't know if I can. All right.
It's easier to see if you zoom into that corner, maybe on sheet L or 7, maybe.
Yeah, so what I would do is kind of once you get past this light, and this will save you some money too. I'm gonna go like here, and then be a little 10-foot radius, whatever you're gonna do. Right there. So just like a little cutoff will look good.
Yeah, I just need to double check. Oh, we have some field size and put in there, and if that's not conflicting with any of that, then yeah, we can do that.
And what's the length of the trail?
Let me see. I have it right in front of me. It's about 1,600 linear feet.
Yeah, if you could even kind of shave this area you know, right here. This might be nice too. Well, I don't know if this is all open or what, but this is a little awkward here. That little piece. Down by the splash pad. I guess that is. Yeah, I mean, if you guys, I mean, if you could have the money, you know, we just have this one missing piece of sidewalk on the whole street, on this whole side of the street right here.
So let me give you my.
You know, if we could get that sidewalk in, that'd be real nice.
I'm divorcing myself from this process.
On General Meyer. I guess it's kind of missing again later. But anyway, might as well at least build the sidewalk to the park. That's all I got.
Okay.
Yeah, if I could just double down on the fencing comments, irrespective of funding, but from a public design perspective, to move away from chain linking as much as possible. I question if the splash pad really needs it, but I guess more so to the splash pad. You know, it's an exciting technology to introduce. I didn't know it was the first one in the city. So just kind of like a general question, is there like a measure of success that will be measured to introduce them at other sites, or what's kind of the strategy there?
Yeah, Nord really wanted to move forward with it at that site based on public input. So I just think the measure of success would be maintenance capabilities, and we're really trying to address that on the front end. But Nord's ability to maintain, and then obviously the usage and the efficiency as well, water reuse and that sort of thing. So it's it's the first one in their portfolio. So we've gone and taken a peek at Cool Zoo and a couple of other spots to kind of pull some ideas.
Okay, so if there's no other committee comments, this now concludes the presentation of dockets. We will move forward with the 5-minute recess and reconvene at 11:15, after which time we will read any public comment into the record.
Thank you.
Okay, the digital public comment form is now closed. We will begin the consideration of dockets, including the public comment portion of the meeting. Joseph, have we received any public comments?
None for neither.
Okay, thank you. Alrighty, so beginning with item number 2, the reconsideration of design review docket 6720. Since there was no public comment, we can move directly to a motion or have further discussion.
I'll make a motion to approve, subject to review and
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Danny. There's some background noise. Would everyone please mute their microphones?
quiet for 1 second.
Thank you.
No, I was just gonna say I'd make a motion to approve, subject to the review and approval of site plan and landscape plans from DPW and from Parkways.
Okay, we have a motion.
I actually
Motion by, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just have a question because I'm wondering, considering the curb cut, is this overall site and building design something we can approve separate from the conditional use process, or do they have to wait till that entire process is complete to move forward with the rest of, permitting and construction?
As far as our review for DAC, we can just note that it would be contingent upon the approval of the sidewalk, the curb cut at a future time. Danny, do you want to amend your motion to include that?
Sure, that sounds good.
Okay, we have a motion by Parks and Parkways and a second. Oh, do we have a second?
This is Eleanor. I seconded.
Okay, thanks. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And the motion passes. We'll now move on to the third item on the agenda, design review docket 1021 for a property at 6600 Belgrade Street. There were no public comments, so is the committee ready to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve, subject to revisions per DPW comments and Parkway comments. But I'd like for them to coordinate with Parkways a little bit on this too, because of the tree selection and placement.
Yeah, will do. We can definitely do that.
Thank you. We have a motion of approval by Parkways. Do we have a second?
Seconded.
We have a second by the Arts Council. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And the motion passes. This concludes the February 17th DAC meeting. Thank you to everyone who came. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Haley.
All righty.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your time today. Goodbye.
Yes, thank you.